least prominently through the 1900s and in the early 2000s, the dogma of science was, there officially is no spiritual dimension. It was both.
That's actually
butting heads with each other.
That's true. Yeah, there are a lot of like big name scientists out there that are like very adamant about like,
if God's real, I need to see the proof.
Exactly.
I get that,
and like kind of discrediting the whole spiritual side of things. On the same coin, there are some really prolific historic, scientists who were really into the spirituality stuff, or at least were kind of orbiting the same, field, like Nikola Tesla.
Isaac Newton.
Yeah, Isaac Newton. Yeah. So Nikola Tesla has this famous quote. You want to?
I actually wrote it down.
Oh, heck yeah.
It was, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Also famously known as 369.
What?
He has this concept that the whole universe is composed by 3, 6, and 9.
Oh,
they're like numerically linked to energy, frequency, and vibration.
Oh.
It's called vortex math. He has this whole complex system behind it.
Vortex math.
Yes.
I can't.
We could talk about that in like a frequency or a vibration episode.
That'd be sick.
We'll do it in the future.
Yeah. So that Nikola Tesla is one that didn't wasn't always quick to kind of cut down spirituality. In fact,
it was the opposite.
It was the opposite for him. And that quote is like super inspiring. It's very related to the stuff that we talk about. So we figured, Spirit Science, why don't we start off the first few episodes talking about those three fundamentals, those three scientific fundamentals. So the whole object of this segment is going to be to like describe the marriage of science and spirituality.
Yeah, and the idea of this is not new either. It's just new to our show to focus in on this. But, the reality is if you read the works of like Rudolf Steiner or Helena Blavatsky or, very prominent Rosicrucian manuscripts, things like that, it's like they call it the spiritual sciences or the occult science. It's a concept that is older than, what we're discussing. It's just like, how cool would it be if we focused on trying to bridge that gap for our listeners?
Yeah.
So they don't have to peer through old manuscripts of secret societies.
Yeah, and I'm just generally like, I'm very intrigued by science. Like, I love it. I think it's super cool. And I find myself all the time getting really deep and nitty gritty into like scientific research and feeling like this is spiritual. Like this is definitely spiritual. So let's talk about energy. That's what we're talking about today. What's the first thing that you think of when you hear energy?
Chi.
Okay.
Me
cool.
personally.
Yeah. What about you, Alex? Energy.
Ooh. I don't know. I think of like running fast.
Well,
okay.
yo. Honestly, you're more on the nose than you think you are. Like, according to the official like scientific definition of energy, it's essentially like your potential for quote unquote work. It's literally like what they call it.
Right. It's not like the output, it's the potential for output.
Exactly. Here's the official definition. This is in the lens of physics. Energy is the quantitative property that is transferred to a body or to a physical system, recognizable in the performance of work and in the form of heat and light. So that's like there are so many different types of energy. That's like in terms of physics. But it's actually like related directly to work and using your bodily energy. But okay, that's like super material science version, right? But when you talk about spirituality, Ryan said chi. So what's your understanding of chi?
It's, when I think of energy, I think of the notion that exactly like Nikola Tesla said, like the energy is constructed. I mean, the universe is constructed of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah.
So I think of it like the force. Like there is a field of infinite intelligent energy that sort of like surrounds and permeates everything in the known universe. It's not necessarily visible to the senses, but it's ever present. It's omnipresent, and it is intrinsically linked to our mental body, our emotional body, our physical body, and our astral or spiritual body.
Yeah, that is, I believe, the spiritual definition of energy. Those four that you just named, what were they again?
The mental body, emotional body, astral, and the physical body?
Right. Yes. That's like when you're
It's in all planes of reality. Energy.
Exactly, yeah. But when you're reading like spiritual texts about energy, those are the four things that are always mentioned. That's something that I kept coming across at least during my research. There's a super important thing that we need to establish as a baseline for energy, and it's you guys have. I'm sure you've heard this, but the law of conservation of energy states that energy can be converted in form, but not created or destroyed. So energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted. That's
or transformed in another way of describing
yeah. So I mean
changed.
that's like a hard, fast law in terms of science. So the first thing that pops into my head when you talk about that specific statement, the law of conservation of energy, is so in the beginning of time, there had to be energy. If it can't be created or destroyed, then it had to have always been there, right?
Yeah, or like
In some form.
Yeah. I was thinking more like also at whatever point this universe was created or manifested, all of the existing energy was brought into being simultaneously.
Right.
All
yes.
of it.
Yes. Which would be like, I guess we would kind of describe that as the beginning of time.
Yeah.
I guess like in our silly rudimentary brains or whatever, that would be like the beginning of time. But yeah, so according to our understanding of the history of the universe, the energy has always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And what else do we know about the world that we live in? It's filled with energy. Most of actually, like, yeah, I would say the vast majority of life on the planet. There are some exceptions, but I mean, we have like literal electrical energy flowing through our bodies. And it's I didn't even know this until I started researching for this, but the electrical currents that flow through our bodies are generated by our brain.
It's funny because we're actually electrical beings.
Yeah, for sure.
The thoughts in your brain are transmitted with electrical impulses between the synaptic gaps in your neurons. Even your thoughts are just little electrical little zaps.
Okay, yeah, which is incredible because that means that if it can be observed, that means that it is giving off some form of energy.
Mm-hmm.
That energy would be in the form of, I believe, radio waves.
I don't know.
It's like a form. There are multiple forms of radio waves, but that's the crazy thing. Like thought can actually be measured. Can be like it actually gives off energy.
We saw that in some sort of History Channel episode.
I was gonna bring it back to that at some point, but you beat me there.
Well, elaborate. Why don't you?
Well, somebody that I know got their brain hooked up to something that measures brain activity.
Yeah.
And paraphrasing a little bit, basically a superhero or like Buddhist.
Well, quit
master.
beating around the bush, dude. Who is it? Who is it?
Yeah.
It's my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put a EEG cap on him, and they in their words, I mean, we had no clue that it was going to go down this way. Dad was just like, sure, I'll do whatever experiment you want. We didn't know what the data would say, and they were able to verify that in their words, he had an energetic connection in his brain, and then the way that it behaved, and with the phenomenon when they appeared in his vicinity, there was an energetic connection. Crazy stuff.